Hey everyone, I'm Sherry Dixon with a Girl and Her Dog Coaching and Consulting. And today I am back with another free gift for you. And this week I'm calling our workshop The Empty Nester Syndrome, reframing our thoughts and living life to its fullest. Now, let me just tell you a little bit about me. My name is Sherry Dixon. I am a mom. I'm an elementary school principal. I'm a runner. I'm a daughter. I am a sister. I am a friend. I am an aunt. I am a transplant. I moved from the north down to Houston, Texas in 1995 after college. I play a lot of roles. I have a lot of hats. And now I've just added, I am a life coach. And I really need to share with you a little bit about my experience in getting to this point in my life on this journey to become a certified life coach. I was one of those girls that, I've done so many things and I've been through so many different things, and I've had to make a lot of shifts and pivots in my life, just like so many of you listening today. And what I found is I spent a lot of time and a lot of effort getting to a place where I was comfortable in my own skin or comfortable with who I am in life and actually proud to live the life that I have right now. And it's a life that I love to wake up to every single day. Now, of course, not every single day is a good day. However, I still have this life that I have been able to design because of work that I've done, self-coaching, working with my own mentors, my networks, my coaches, people in my world that helped me get to this point. And one day, I really had been struggling with what were my next steps getting into my midlife. And I just decided I have been spending so much time supporting children in my current career as a public school educator and teachers as their principal, that it was time to make some kind of change, some kind of pivot again in my life, because something just wasn't feeling settled in my world. And so I just kept thinking, what could I do next? Where could I go? I have so many dreams. I'm just not going to even lie to you. I have so many goals. I could decorate homes. I do a pretty good job with that. I could go do some educational consulting. I am a pretty good educator. I thought I could go work for one of those book companies or now software companies for education. But, those were just not quite where I wanted to be yet. But where I wanted to be was in a place where I could help people just like me, help people make these pivots and these changes, and hopefully do it a whole lot faster than I ever did it, because it took me a long time on some of my pivots and some of my changes. I'm not going to lie to you. Some of them were a little easier than others. Some of them were bigger than others. And a few of the big ones, I really could have used somebody right there telling me it's okay, telling me not to be afraid to take that next step that I might want to take, but worried about what other people would think. And telling me that it is okay to put myself first for a change, because I dedicated my life to raising my daughter, to being the best principal I could be, to being the best teacher I could be, to being the best whatever role I was in at the time. And unfortunately, I just kind of put myself to the side for so long. Then when I had to figure out myself, I didn't really know what I wanted. I didn't really know what I needed, which caused me to not really know what my next steps were. As I mentioned, it took a lot of time for me to figure out, but time is money. And unfortunately, some of the choices that I made along the way also cost me a lot of money. And so I really thought, what if I could help people do it faster, much more efficiently, much bigger, much better, and in the long run, save people a lot of money, a lot of stress, a lot of headache, a lot of turmoil, and still keep all of the other relationships in their life intact and as important, just adding that relationship with themselves. And so that's how A Girl and Her Dog coaching and consulting got started. I launched in May of 2022 after getting certified. I had a course, a mindset challenge with A Girl and Her Dog. Then I had my very first client. She did an awesome job. I was so proud of the work we did together. And what was more important to me was seeing the pivots she made, the confidence she built, the courage she started to have so that she could then go on and be able to do the things in life she wants. And she knows that I'm always there to support her. So if she came back to me and said, "Hey, Sherry, I need a little something, something," she's my girl now. She's on my team, and I will always be there for her. Then I had opportunities to do so many big things over the summer of 2022. I was able to write a chapter in a book that went to an international bestseller. I was able to have a magazine article published, be guest on different blogs. I've been able to start my own podcast, Strong Inside and Out, which I'm absolutely loving. And I've also been able to become guests on other people's blogs. In addition, as I'm supporting women and really that whole premise of being strong inside and out, I've been able to really have an impact on my own staff because I look at things differently on how I work with them, how I support them. I think I've had a different way of looking at how I'm working with my community at my school, working with even my friends and my own daughter, because we got to a point on this whole journey that I became an empty nester. Now, it might sound a little crazy because I'm 51 and my daughter is 32, and she was 31 when she made me an empty nester. We had some paths along our way that had some hurdles and some hiccups, and we are very, very close. And we always said we were going to build a mother-daughter relationship that focused on all the things that we love about each other, be able to support each other even on days that we didn't agree, and be that, we used to call it the mommy babyhood when she was a little girl. I became a single mother after that divorce, and she really relied on me a lot. And even as she was growing up, I became her rock. And I think a lot of that was because I didn't have the best relationship with my own mom. My biological mother and I severed our ties when I was turning 14 years old. I grew up in a home that had a lot going on. And at that point, when I became a teenager, I was dealing with all the things teenagers have to deal with. And I didn't have the mental, emotional capacity to be able to also deal with her issues that she was experiencing. And I had to make a really hard decision. It killed me. It broke my heart. And I know it broke her heart too, but it was what was best for me in the long run. So I lived with my dad for a while, and my dad did remarry, and I have a stepmother, and she's great, and we're great, and all is good. But, as a teenager, times are challenging. And you do feel like when you've been raising yourself for so long that it's very hard to now accept somebody else coming into your world and giving you parameters and expectations. Now, I have to promise you, I was a really good kid, because when I made that tie severance with my own mother, I knew that I needed to do that so that I could do big things in life. And I knew that if I stayed in the place that I was staying, I would not get to college and I would not get to fulfill my dreams and goals. And I knew that I would also probably find myself in a circle with people that were not healthy for me and not making good choices. And I would probably have made some of those really, really bad choices as a teenager and then never get to where I wanted to be in life. Or worse yet, have to deal with other types of people putting parameters and expectations in place for me. So that's a little bit about how we got to this point, my daughter and I, of being so, so close. Because when I realized that I was having a baby, and I was young, I was a teenager myself, I knew that no matter what, I was still going to fulfill my dreams. I knew that no matter what, I was still going to be a great role model for her. And I knew that no matter what, I wasn't going to let circumstances in life dictate my future, her future. And I knew that I wanted her to be able to have the love and support and the life she dreamed of having, I dreamed of having for her, with all of the love and support I could possibly give to her. And so you can see we were very, very close. Now, we had our good days and our bad days too, because just as I mentioned earlier, not everybody's life is 100% perfect, for sure. But we learned how to work through our differences and learned how to support each other, as I mentioned. And then the divorce happened. She was in college, she was away. And when it all went down, it was very devastating because she's an only child and she only knew life with her dad and I. And she was also going through some other types of things at college. And so she made the decision to come back home and live with me. And that was when she was 20 years old. And she basically either lived with me or within 5 minutes of me most of the next 11 years. We had dinners together. We're both educators, so we would have holiday breaks together, summer breaks together. Mine are a little limited, but you get what I'm saying. Weekends, we would catch up. We would talk every morning, every evening, sometimes even during the day. And when she became a teacher, she was even working in my same district. At a school, the first school was about 6 blocks from mine, and the second school was about 6 minutes from mine. So as you can see, we were very close. And her moving to the other side of the city was very difficult for me. Now, you think, oh, she's just on the other side of the city, girl. Well, I live in Houston, Texas, the 4th largest city in the United States. And the other side of the city is about an hour and a half from me. I'm in the suburbs on the northeast side, and she's on the west side. I do get to see her. It's not like she's gone forever. She's not in another state, and she's not totally removed from me. But once she moved out, she met the love of her life. And now she spends most of her free time building a relationship with him. And I love him. I know him well, and it's a good thing. But it also means mom becomes second or third or fourth in the pecking order. It was very hard to accept. It was very hard to deal with. And I'm not going to lie to you. It was partly why I decided to start this business, because I needed something that was for me. I learned quickly that I had 2 choices. I could either just wallow in my sorrow, be sad every day, stay inside, because we all know that that's possible, right? After COVID and all of that messiness, we could just recluse into our homes and be sad. But that gets tired after a while. And even though stepping out of my comfort zone to now design a life that I wanted to live, after never, ever having any adult time without having somebody relying on me, at the age of 50, 51, it was scary. And it was hard to make that choice and to make that pivot. But then I started to realize hard is hard no matter what. So either it's going to be hard to live this sad life, be depressed, not fulfill your goals and dreams, or it's going to be hard stepping out of your comfort zone, making changes, and going after all of your goals and dreams. You just have to choose your hard. And that's one of my most favorite sayings. because everything about life is hard, but you just choose your hard, right? And so I chose my hard. And today I want to share with you how I worked through that process and what I realized, because about a week ago, I went to an event. It was a networking event, and we were doing a workshop, and my daughter was actually there with me. And we were there and we were talking about how, our vision boards came together. So that's what we were working on, is our vision boards for 2023. And my vision board, I'm able to see it right here. It's posted in my office, but it has a lot about my next steps. And I'm looking over at her vision board, and it had a lot about her next steps. And probably 2 or 3 years ago, we would have had everything about our life together. As a matter of fact, I didn't even tell you this part. We were even planning on purchasing a home together. One of those homes that maybe had some kind of split plan or something, because neither one of us really felt like we were going to separate from each other like this. That's how in deep we were, y'all. I promise. So we're sitting here at this workshop and we're talking about our vision boards and how everything came together. And I shared and I said, I have 3 big goals for the upcoming year and 3 big purposes of why I'm moving toward these goals. And I said, my purpose always is and always will be my daughter. That's my main purpose. My vision with that is that, 1, I'm always going to be that strong woman that's a good role model for her, so that she can see that you can have it all if that's what you want. But also the fact that she made me this empty nester. And for the first time that day, I said the words, I think I finally realized that this is exactly what we're supposed to do in life. Our jobs as parents are to birth and raise our children, teach them, guide them to be able to design a life they want to live, make sure they're secure, they're solid, they're successful, and then step back, watch them flourish, and then enjoy our time. Enjoy making ourselves a priority again. Because I bet if you're listening to this and you're a parent, you dedicated your life to your child or your children. And that's where the whole empty nester thought comes from, right? We keep thinking, okay, we feel so empty. The nest is empty. What do we do now? I've been in this mode for so long. I don't know how to take the next step. I don't know what to do. And more importantly, and even maybe more fearful, I don't know what the next step is. I remember back when our daughter was getting ready to go to college, and she did leave. She left and she went about 4 hours away. And it was really hard. I cried. We dropped her off. We got in the car. I looked at my ex-husband. We were still together at that point, and I just looked at him and I cried. And he's like, what is going on? And I just kept saying, I just don't know. I just feel so sad that she's going to be so far away from us. And what I realized in our 4-hour drive home, by the time we got home, I went to him and I said, I know why I was crying. I was crying because what if we don't know how to be a couple together without our child here? Because that's actually what happened to me, but my circumstance is different. He was 18, I was 20. She was born when I was 19. He had just turned 18. We got married the following summer, and we had never been adults on our own. We had never been an adult couple on our own. We didn't know what we wanted out of life. And so I was in that kind of circumstance. And at that moment, that's when I realized I'm going to miss her, but I'm going to miss her because that's what our whole world has always been about. And so I bet some of you are feeling that way. But here's the good news. Not everybody's relationship turns into a disaster like mine did. I have very close friends that their children are off to college now, and they are loving life together. So if you have that fear, talk about it, because I wanted to talk about it. My ex-husband didn't want to talk about it. He just kept brushing it off. I think because he knew that was probably what was going to happen as well, and we weren't ready to face that reality yet. But that's not the case for everyone. And so having the fear that that's something that could happen is probably holding you back from taking that next step. It could be at least one of the reasons. So I do definitely say communicate about that. But more importantly, let's continue today to focus on us. You're watching this because you want my best tips. You want to learn how I was able to reframe my thoughts so that I can continue to live life to its fullest. And I really do. I love my life. I really enjoy it. And it's not because I'm extra super lucky. It's just because I'm not afraid to go after what I want, because I was able to learn how to take that next step. So let's get started here. So the first thing I want you to just think about is something I just kind of mentioned a little bit before, but even a little deeper. Our children's success really is a true reflection of us. I always feel like I can tell, and I work with families, right? I'm an elementary principal. I can always tell families who really are in it to win it. And I work in some pretty diverse schools, and I have nothing against any type of family in my schools. I love them all. This has been my world for many, many years. But I can tell families that really believe this to be true, that their child's success really is a reflection of them. Because if you think about it, who is a child's greatest teacher? Yes, they spend a lot of time at school, but they also spend a lot of time with us. And whether we realize it or not, we are their comfort zone. We are their role model. Even my own mother, I didn't have that relationship with her, but I always watched her. I lived in a small town. I knew what was going on with her. I knew where she was. I knew where she lived. I knew who she was hanging out with. And I always watched, because that's what children do. They're watching us. They're learning from us. They're figuring out how they fit in the world, but we are their guide. They're going to do the things we do, whether we tell them to or not. They're going to respond to things the same way we do, whether we tell them to or not, whether it's a direct teaching or not. So we really have to remember that all of that hard work, the dedication we put into raising our children, teaching our children, guiding our children, being that role model for them, shapes them. So if they're successful, well, look, that's because of the work you did. So kudos to you. Good job, Mom. Good job, Dad, who's ever listening to this. Because it's a hard job. Parenting, it's the hardest job in the world, but it's the one that matters so much, and that's why it's hard. So take those kudos and remember to keep that in the back of your mind. We want our children to be able to fly out of the nest. Whether we're going to feel lonely or not, that's where we do our own work. But we need them to fly. We need them to be successful. And we need them to prove that the work we put in really made a difference. Another thing that I think is really important, and I think this one is a little bit hard to accept, that this is the way life is supposed to be. This is the way it's designed, right? Now, whether you believe in whatever kind of spirituality that's out there, because, we all can believe in something. But I believe this is exactly the way life was designed. Now, I want to put myself back as a kid, okay? I want to put myself back as a teenager. At 14, I was living with my dad, and he was getting ready to remarry. At 15 and 16, I was still living with my dad, but now with my dad and my stepmother. And I was spending more time with friends, and I was spending more time with my grandparents. And so I wasn't always consistently at one place. And then when I became 16 and I was able to drive and I was able to get my own job and I was able to buy my own clothes, my designer clothes I wanted to buy, or eat out if I didn't want the food that was on the table at my home, or go to the movies with my friends or whatever it was, then that's when I spent most of my time working. And I actually worked quite a bit as a teenager and trying to figure out my next steps after high school. I didn't want my parents at that point in time coddling me. I didn't. And I bet you didn't either. Now, I have a different kind of relationship with my family. I'm here in Houston and they're still in our hometown, and it's a long ways away. We see each other a few times a year, but you may be very, very close with your parents, but I promise you still don't want them telling you what to do. You still don't want them telling you how to live your life. Now, maybe you have the relationship like my daughter and I, where you do talk about things and you bounce ideas off of each other and you get each other's opinions and you support each other when you don't agree. And that's different. But what you don't want is somebody sitting there telling you exactly what you can and cannot do. And if you're like me, when my daughter was living in my house, I wanted rules. I didn't want her coming home at 4 a.m. after being out partying and doing whatever she wanted, because I was worrying about when was she going to come home and was I going to have to get into my car and go find her and all of those things. I know you're there too. I know you are. So if we take that perspective and we think about where we were when we were causing our parents to become empty nesters, we need to frame that to how we're treating our children. We're teaching them that they need to live an adult life, that they need to go earn their own money. I don't know about you, but I was ready for my daughter to be off my payroll. I promise you. It took her a little longer, but it was almost like I'd gotten a raise. And not just that, but we have to let them go live it. And when they go live it out of our grasp, out of our nest, so to speak, that's when they can make the mistakes and learn how to persevere. I call it a productive struggle. Of course, I'm a teacher, and that's what I think about all of the time. But it wasn't until I allowed my daughter to have a productive struggle, meaning she had to make some mistakes, and I was always there just in case. But I tried to back up and become more of a sounding board, more of, well, let's process this through, instead of, okay, you spent all your money on shoes. Now you can't buy groceries. How are you going to figure that out? Instead of, I'll write you a check. You know, letting them go puts that responsibility on them. It makes them feel like I can't just run to my mom when I need something. But keeping them close, keeping ourselves sad and depressed when they do go. They know that we're going to be there. And let me just tell you, kids know, even adult kids, they know. And they know how they can get stuff from us. I mean, at least my daughter knew, I'll just be honest. And so it's our job, and this is the way life is supposed to be. Because if we don't do that, we're hindering them from being their very best self. So although that one's a hard one to swallow, it really is super important. And that's the thing I had to remind myself. And it took me a while to give her that freedom to make that struggle with some guidance and some support, but rather than just me going to take care of things. And I've been there too. I've gotten the phone calls. Sorry, mom, but I went and got my nails done and eyelashes, but I'm standing at the grocery store and I can't pay my bill. And what did I do? I wanted her close to me. I wanted her to love me. I wanted her happy with me. And so I went and swiped my card. And she was in her late 20s at that time. So let's keep that in mind. We are hindering them by keeping them in the nest. Now, I do want to just say this little disclaimer. Some family cultures are really about living together and staying together and having a different kind of dynamic, or having all of the homes within a certain property or within a certain location. And I am not discounting that at all. Some families, cultures are where kids do come back because maybe something else happened and they needed to do so. I'm not discounting that at all. This is not about that at all. This is 100% about the feeling of our kids are getting ready to fly and we're just not ready to let them go. And then when we do let them go, we're miserable about it. So I do want to just make that very, very clear, because I certainly don't want anyone to think that I'm not caring and loving, because let me tell you, if something were to happen to me and I needed my daughter, she better be here in a minute, and vice versa. If something happened to her and I needed to go to her or to my sister or to my parents, my own parents. So having said that, let's continue on. I have two more things that I want to share with you. The next one I really want to share is one of my favorites. And it took me a minute to learn this, and I had to practice it, because anytime that I would get an opportunity to be with my daughter, the first thing I wanted to do is just tell her everything I thought she should be doing. Oh, well, you don't like this? Well, then you should do this. Oh, well, you're not doing this. Okay, you should be doing this. Oh, are you doing this? You should come here more. Almost like a nag. And I had to realize that that was not making our time together enjoyable at all. And so then I would have limited time together, and then it would be miserable. And then she would go back to her place and I would be feeling miserable. And it wasn't fun. It wasn't fun at all. So my next tip for you, strategy, way I reframed my own self, was to remember to cherish the moments that you have with your adult child as often as you can. And again, life is not all about roses and butterflies, but if you keep focusing on the positive things about spending time together, then that will ensure that your visit stays positive. And even though them leaving might feel a little bit icky, at least you know you have those great moments. At least you know that you left it on a positive note. And at least you know that they're going to want to come back. They're going to want to call you. I remember one day we were having a conversation, and we were just kind of processing through a few things. And I had just gotten through my life coaching and just kind of stepping back and trying to really remember, let her speak. Don't tell her everything she should need to do, but maybe guide her through some of the conversation. And it actually worked, because she left, and we always have dinner on Sundays, but she left. And about 30 minutes later, she called. And I was like, is everything okay? Because Houston traffic is awful. And she said, yeah, Mom, I just wanted to tell you I love you and thank you. I had a great time tonight at dinner. And I just thought, wow, I know that that was a perfect, perfect evening together. As perfect can get, right? Because we were able to stay focused on the positive things and not, it could have changed everything. I could have been saying things like, well, I never get to see you, and you don't call me 3 times a day anymore. And when are you coming back? And why can't I see you more often? Had I been approaching it in that manner, that would have just pushed her away farther and farther and farther. And that's exactly what I wouldn't want to do. So again, this one's a little hard, but if you can master this, or at least start working toward it one step at a time, I promise you, you're going to feel a whole lot better about all of your interactions. Both of you will. All of you will, however many children and people in your home. And then finally, this is the most exciting one. I told you, I realized that this was finally my time to focus on me. And guess what? It's your time to focus on you. You're worth it. You can now be a priority. You can design a life you want to live. You can focus on your relationships, your friendships, your hobbies. Maybe you have a big goal or dream. You get to do that. Now, it's going to feel weird at first, and it's going to take those small steps to get you there. But you get to focus on you. And that lights me up. And I hope it lights you up as well. Now, again, that might be scary. It might take a minute to know what you want to do, but you can do it. I know you can. So I do want to just take a minute and recap so that you can see this on your screen. Let me move this so y'all can see. I'm going to leave this up for a minute, and I'm not going to go through all of this, but as you are reading and thinking, just remember, our children's success is really a true reflection of the hard work and dedication that we put into being parents. Whether we were great or not, our children believe we were, and they're watching, and they're learning, and they're focused on what we're doing. And so you should be proud of that, and you should celebrate that. Cherish the moments that you have with your child when you have them. Don't go in with that nagging, I wish I could see you more, I don't see you enough, I don't hear from you enough, but instead reframe that to be positive and think about the great things about the time you do get to spend together. The hardest one to accept, of course, is, well, this is how life is supposed to be. We don't have any control over it. So wallowing in something that we can't control, those uncontrollable factors, it's not going to get us anywhere. And I know that's hard. So I tell you that to say, I believe that you can make that reframe in your thoughts. But just know this is the way life is. You can't change it. So let's move on, and let's remember, if we just keep holding them tight to us, we are actually hindering them. And finally, don't forget the most exciting part. This is your time, and you get to focus on you and everything about you and your world and your next steps. Now, I don't know about you, but I always say my second half of life is going to be my best half of life. I did some amazing things growing up. I was very fortunate to have the supports that I had and to be able to do the things that I did. And then, even though I became a teenage mother and I had to work hard to get to college and get to where I wanted to be, I actually had a very fulfilling career in public education. I did a great job as a mom. I was there for all of the big things. I was one of those girls that learned how to balance it all. I balanced the career. I balanced the family. I was even a very avid, involved runner. I've run quite a few half marathons every year, taking time out to train and do different things like that, and still be friends with people and have a social life. And then as I got into the 40s and now into my 50s, everything just seems to be coming together. I feel so knowledgeable about life because of the experiences I've had. I feel so confident with myself. I have the courage to take that next step even when I'm afraid. I'm very clear about my very next path. So, having said that, I do want to just talk to you for a minute about how you could actually get some help if you need to. Now, I promise you, this training is all for you. And if you never want to contact me again, absolutely okay. Now, I do have a lot of free stuff out there. I have a podcast, as I mentioned. I have a blog. I post very consistently in my social media. However, if you just feel like, this girl kind of knows what she's talking about, but I really don't know my next step, I would love to get on a call with you. It's totally free. It's totally free. We can talk about how you're feeling. Talk about what you want. What are your fears? What kind of support would you need? And maybe we could figure it all out and you could be like, hey, I'm ready to rock and roll on my own. But maybe you might just need a little more. And so I do have some programs. I have some things because I'm on a mission. I'm on a mission to help as many women as I can with coaching, with my programs, with my podcast, my blog, any of my written works. And I want to have an impact on the world. I want to continue to have that impact by supporting and cheering you on during your next life adventure. So if that's something that you think you would be interested in. And I promise you, you would be. And I can guarantee you that we would do some great things together. Go to my website, which I have listed here, findagirlandherdog.com. Super easy to get to. Scroll onto the homepage down to the bottom and sign up for a time with me. Again, this time is totally free. No strings attached, but I will talk to you about ways that we could work together in the future if that's what we think, but maybe we're not even a good fit for that. We don't know that yet. You're looking at a computer screen, and guess what? I'm looking at a webcam. So, saying that, I do know that some of the things that I've been through really can help women just like you, just like me, get to where you want to be faster, easier, and much more efficient, and probably a whole lot cheaper than even what my most costly program costs. And really, they're really not too bad. So reach out to me. But again, thank you for joining me today, because the most important part about today is giving you the support you need, giving you my thoughts. They've worked with people that I've shared them with, and I know they can work with you, because that's what it's all about. Women supporting women, you designing your best life, and ultimately living life to its fullest. So I thank you, and I hope you have a great rest of your life, but please reach out, because I know you won't regret it.